The worn leather wallet lay in the middle of the rain-soaked sidewalk like a forgotten secret. People hurried past without noticing it. Umbrellas tilted against the cold wind, each person too consumed by their own struggles to stop. But Daniel Carter noticed. He bent down, picked it up with trembling hands, and opened it only long enough to search for identification. What he found made his heart race. Inside were stacks of crisp bills totaling nearly $50,000, along with platinum credit cards and the identification of one of the city's most successful CEOs. For a brief moment, the weight of that fortune seemed heavier than the wallet itself. His rent was overdue. His refrigerator held little more than milk and bread. His 7-year-old daughter needed medicine he could barely afford. Yet despite every hardship pressing against his shoulders, Daniel closed the wallet, took a deep breath, and walked toward the nearest address he could find. He had no idea that one honest decision would change not only his life but someone else's forever. Daniel had once dreamed of becoming an architect. Years earlier, life had looked promising until tragedy rewrote every plan he had made. His wife passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him to raise their daughter Lily alone. Overnight, dreams were replaced by responsibilities. Every morning before sunrise, he cleaned office buildings, and every afternoon he delivered groceries across town while Lily attended school. Exhaustion became his constant companion, yet he never allowed his daughter to see how frightened he truly was. To her, he remained the father who smiled through every difficult day, who turned cheap pancake dinners into celebrations, and who believed tomorrow would somehow be better than today. The address on the CEO's identification led Daniel to a towering glass headquarters that reflected the gray sky above. Employees rushed in and out carrying expensive briefcases, barely noticing the tired man wearing faded work boots. Security guards looked suspiciously at him until he quietly explained why he had come. Minutes later, the owner of the wallet appeared. Sophia Reynolds carried herself with quiet confidence rather than arrogance. She had built one of the largest technology companies in the region from almost nothing. Newspapers described her as brilliant, fearless, and impossible to impress. Yet the moment she saw the wallet resting safely in Daniel's hands, something unexpected crossed her face. It wasn't relief over the money. It was disbelief that someone had chosen honesty when temptation had been so overwhelming. She thanked him sincerely and offered a generous cash reward, believing it was the least she could do. Daniel smiled politely but refused. He explained that he simply wanted to return what belonged to someone else. Money earned through honesty felt different from money accepted out of obligation. Sophia watched him leave, puzzled by a man who clearly needed help but refused to profit from another person's mistake. Curiosity lingered in her thoughts throughout the day. She couldn't understand why someone living with so little would walk away from such an opportunity. Late that afternoon, she quietly asked one of her assistants to learn more about the man who had returned the wallet. The report that arrived hours later wasn't filled with scandals or hidden motives. Instead, it revealed years of sacrifice, unpaid medical bills, long working hours, and a father doing everything possible to protect his little girl from the harshness of poverty. The following weekend, Sophia drove to the address listed in Daniel's records. She expected to find a modest apartment, but what she discovered humbled her. The small building was old, with cracked paint and rusted railings. Children's bicycles leaned against broken fences, and flowers somehow managed to bloom in neglected window boxes. As she stepped from her car, she heard laughter floating through an open window. Inside, Daniel and Lily were baking cookies from a recipe scribbled onto an old piece of paper. The kitchen was tiny, and several appliances barely worked, but warmth filled every corner. Lily giggled as flour covered her father's face. Daniel laughed harder than she did, forgetting for a moment how difficult life had become. Sophia stood silently outside, realizing she had spent years building wealth while somehow losing touch with moments that money could never buy. She knocked gently, introducing herself with genuine gratitude rather than business formality. Daniel looked surprised but welcomed her inside despite feeling embarrassed by his humble home. Sophia noticed patched furniture, carefully folded school uniforms, and photographs of Daniel's late wife displayed with loving care. Nothing in the apartment spoke of luxury, but everything reflected devotion. As the afternoon passed, Sophia learned more than any background report could have revealed. She saw how Daniel helped Lily with homework using library books because they couldn't afford new ones. She noticed how he quietly skipped dessert so Lily could have the last cookie. Every sacrifice happened naturally, without complaint or expectation of recognition. That evening, Sophia returned home unable to stop thinking about them. She had spent years surrounded by executives competing for promotions, investors chasing profits, and acquaintances measuring success through expensive possessions. Yet one afternoon inside a tiny apartment had reminded her what genuine success truly looked like. Over the next several weeks, she found subtle ways to stay connected. She arranged anonymous scholarships that covered Lily's school expenses. She ensured Daniel received interviews for positions matching his forgotten architectural education. Still, Daniel never realized who was quietly opening doors behind the scenes. He believed life was finally giving him another chance because he had refused to surrender hope. Eventually, one company offered Daniel a position designing affordable housing projects. It wasn't glamorous, but it allowed him to use talents he had buried beneath years of survival jobs. His confidence slowly returned as blueprints replaced delivery schedules. Every paycheck became another step toward stability. Months later, Sophia revealed her involvement. Daniel was overwhelmed, not because of the opportunities themselves, but because someone had seen value in him long before success returned. Sophia admitted that returning the wallet had restored something she hadn't realized she had lost. It reminded her that integrity still existed in a world obsessed with shortcuts. Their friendship grew naturally, built on mutual respect rather than obligation. Sophia often visited Daniel and Lily, discovering that the little apartment had become a place where she could finally breathe without pretending to be perfect. Lily welcomed her as though she had always belonged there, proudly showing school projects and sharing dreams about becoming a doctor one day. One rainy evening, Daniel stood outside the same office building where he had once returned the wallet. This time, he wasn't delivering groceries or searching for temporary work. He had just presented a community housing project that would provide affordable homes for hundreds of struggling families. As applause echoed through the conference hall, he realized his greatest achievement wasn't professional recognition. It was proving to Lily that character could shape destiny more powerfully than wealth ever could. Sophia watched proudly from the audience. She understood that if Daniel had kept the money months earlier, his problems might have disappeared briefly, but his peace would have vanished forever. Instead, his honesty had inspired countless acts of kindness that spread far beyond either of them. Years later, families moved into neighborhoods Daniel helped design. Children played safely in parks that existed because one father had been given another chance. Lily earned scholarships through hard work and compassion, never forgetting the lessons her father lived every day instead of simply teaching. Sometimes the greatest miracles don't arrive wrapped in extraordinary events. Sometimes they begin with an ordinary person making an extraordinary choice when nobody is watching. A wallet filled with $50,000 could have solved one family's problems for a season, but returning it created hope that transformed many lives for years to come. If this story touched your heart, remember that kindness often begins with decisions that seem small in the moment, but echo far into the future. Every honest act plants a seed that someone else may one day harvest. In a world where people often believe goodness goes unnoticed, Daniel's journey reminds us that integrity has a way of finding its way home, often carrying blessings we never expected. Some people measure wealth by the money they keep, while others measure it by the lives they change. Daniel never became the richest man in the city, but he became something far greater. He became living proof that even in the hardest moments, choosing what is right can open doors that no amount of money could ever unlock, leaving behind a legacy that neither time nor hardship could erase.